Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Welcome to Satsang. Nice to see you all. So I received this message yesterday. Please could you talk about Arunachala and how the mountain can be a guru? This is what Sri Ramana said. And what is the power of silence? So first, let me say about Arunachala. So it's said that the origins of Arunachala the holy hill are related to the manifestation of Lord Shiva as a column of light in this location. He arose there because a dispute had arisen between Vishnu and Brahma. And their dispute was around who was the greatest of the gods. Was it Vishnu or was it Brahma? So we can see from this that even the gods sometimes are burdened by ego to a degree. And this is why it's said that the silence of the self is supreme, greater even than all of the gods and goddesses. But anyway, this dispute arose between them. And Lord Shiva heard the prayers of devotees saying, please help us. This fight is going to destroy us. This argument. So Lord Shiva appeared as a column of light before Brahma and Vishnu. And he said, we must settle this for the sake of all beings. Turned himself into a column of light and told one go up and the other go down. Whoever finds the top or the bottom of this column of light first is the greatest among you. And so they went to find the end of this column of light. And they traveled and traveled and traveled. And of course they were unable to find the end of the column of light. This column of light went on infinitely throughout all eternity. There's more to the story, but eventually they realized that they couldn't find the ends of this column of light, and they appeared again before the column, at the feet of Lord Shiva, and they bowed, and they said, you are the greatest among us. the column of light collapsed into itself, and in its place was Arunachala. It remains there to this day. Mount Kailash in the Himalayas is said to be the home of Lord Shiva, his abode. But Arunachala is said to be Lord Shiva himself, the embodiment of Lord Shiva in the world. It's for this reason that devotees in their millions come from all over India and around the world to Arunachala. To experience the presence and the silence of Arunachala and Lord Shiva as Guru. Of course, it's also said by the sages that the holy hill, as the manifestation of silence and wisdom, is a reflection of the inner peace and wisdom of the self. Mountains, of course, are unmoving. This is a beautiful symbol for the stillness of the self. A mountain can be walked upon, walked around. It can sustain fire, storms, floods, and yet it remains in its silence, no matter what the conditions on its surface. So this is a beautiful metaphor, a beautiful pointing toward the true understanding of the self, that which we talk about here week after week. That as the storms come and go across the awareness itself, that awareness is unmoved. And that by engaging in the inquiry, we are able to pull attention away from the waves, the storms, the thoughts, the sensations, the emotions that plague the mind, and return it to the stillness of the heart. And so then Arunachala, the holy hill, is also known as the heart. So all of these ways are proclaiming the glory and the presence of Sri Arunachala. When Bhagavan Ramana was a young man, just aged 19 or 20, he'd been in silence for many years. But at the end of this period of Mauna, devotees were just beginning to come to him. He still was not speaking, so he would write things down on scraps of paper, sometimes answering a question or two. but eventually, over a couple of years, he had composed 5 poems about his experience with Sri Arunachala, Lord Shiva, the heart of being. So I thought I'd share one of these with you this morning. So this is Bhagavan Ramana's composition. It's entitled 8 Stanzas to Sri Arunachala. The first one. Ah, what a wonder! It stands as an insentient hill. Its action is mysterious, past human understanding. From the age of innocence, it had shone within my mind that Arunachala was something of a surpassing grandeur. But even when I came to know, through another, that it was the same as Tiruvannamalai, which is the town around the base of the mountain, I did not realize its meaning. When it drew me up to it, stilling my mind, and I came close, I saw it stand unmoving. Stanza 2. Who is the seer? When I sought within, I watched what survived the disappearance of the seer. No thought arose to say I saw. How then could the thought I did not see arise? Who has the power to convey this in words, when even thou, appearing as Dakshinamurti, couldst do so in ancient days only by silence? Only to convey by silence thy transcendent state, thou stand as a hill shining from heaven to earth. Stanza 3. When I approach thee, regarding thee as having form, thou standest as a hill on earth. If, with the mind, the seeker looks for thy essential form as formless, he is like one who travels the earth to see the ever-present ether. To dwell without thought upon thy boundless nature is to lose one's separate identity, like a doll of sugar when it comes in contact with the ocean. And when I come to realize who I am, what else is this identity of mine but thee? O thou who standest as the towering Aruna hill. To look for God while ignoring thee, who art being and consciousness, is like going with a lamp to look for darkness. Only to make thyself known as being and consciousness, thou will, in different religions under different names and forms, thou dwellest in different religions under different names and forms. If yet they do not come to know thee, they are indeed the blind who do not know the sun. O great Arunachala, thou peerless gem, abide and shine. Thou as myself, one without a second. Stanza 5. As the string in a necklet of gems, it is thou in thy unity who penetrate all of the diversity of beings and religions. If like a gem, when it is cut and polished, the impure mind is worked against the wheel of the pure mind to free it from its flaws, it will take on the light of thy grace and shine like a ruby, whose fire is unaffected by any outward object. When once a photographic plate has been exposed to the sun, it can receive impressions afterwards. O benign and dazzling Aruna hill, is there anything apart from thee? Stanza 6. Thou art thyself the one being, ever aware as the self-luminous heart. In thee there is a mysterious power, Shakti. From it proceeds the phantom of the mind, emitting its latent, subtle, dark mists, which, illuminated by thy light, reflected on them, appear within, as though whirling in the vortices of Prarabdha. Later, developing into the psychic worlds, they are projected without as the material world and transformed into concrete objects, which are magnified by the outgoing senses and move about like pictures in a cinema show. Visible or invisible, O hill of grace, without thee they are nothing. Stanza 7. When there is not the I thought, then there will be no other thought. Until that time, when other thoughts arise, asking to whom, will call forth the reply, to me. He who pursues this closely, questioning, what is the origin of I? And diving inwards, reaches the seat of the mind within the heart, becomes the sovereign Lord of the universe. O boundless ocean of grace, called Arunachala, dancing motionless within the heart, the court of the heart. There is no longer any dream of such duality as in and out, right and wrong, birth and death, pleasure or pain, or light and darkness. Stanza 8. The waters rise up from the sea as clouds, then fall as rain, and run back to the sea in streams. Nothing can keep them from returning to their source. Likewise, the jiva, the individual, rising up from thee, cannot be kept from joining thee again, though it may stray many times along the way. A bird which rises from the earth and soars into the sky can find no place of rest except the earth. So indeed must all retrace their path. And then the individual finds its way back to its source. It will sink and be merged in thee, O Arunachala, thou ocean of bliss. So in this way, through this poem, Sri Ramana shows us, tells us, not only the way in which manifestation of all objects comes about, but also the way in which, allowed to subside returning to the heart of being, consciousness, we are able to experience directly the great silence and wisdom, which is the self. All gurus, all sages, Arunachala itself, Lord Shiva himself, all are pointing to this great path of return to the self. Using Sri Arunachala, placing Sri Arunachala in the heart of one's being, seeing oneself as that manifestation of the Supreme Lord Shiva, one finds the Guru within. Each and every one of us has within us this great Guru, this silence of being, consciousness. In the beginning, it may appear that we have found an external guru, a sage, a mountain, a god. And for a time, we honor and give devotion to this external manifestation, surrendering at the feet of the Guru, going more deeply into this question: who am I? What is here? What is aware? We come to realize that the Guru, who before was calling to us from outside, now is calling to us from inside, calling us into the heart of being, consciousness. And that the external Guru was our great guide into the heart of being, into the silent nature of our own wisdom. And for this reason, we feel great gratitude and indebtedness to the Guru, possessed of form, whether that was the form of a human body, the form of a mountain, the form of nature, the form of a god or goddess, all result in the recognition and the realization that only the self is. That I am. For this reason, Sri Ramana was always pointing us towards silence. Silence as the foundation of being consciousness and as the foundation of the teaching. People often came to him interested in knowing about the powers, the siddhis that yogis would sometimes display, often traveling around India, displaying powers of clairvoyance and telepathy, trying to gather followers and devotees. And so his teaching was always brought back to the silence of being consciousness because of his recognition that anything which was manifesting in the external world was a product of mind. And though it might be very powerful, because it came and went, because it was transitory, it was impermanent. And so he was always referring people who were looking for miracles and powers, wanting this as a manifestation, or wanting him to manifest siddhis. He would always point people back to the silence of being, saying, first know who you are. Everything else flows from that. So he made this comment to a devotee about power and the position or the meaning of silence in our practice. He asked, which is real power? Is it to increase prosperity or bring about peace? That which results in peace is the highest perfection, the highest siddhi. Devotee said, but common people in Europe and America would not appreciate such an attitude and would desire a display of powers and instructions by lectures. The Maharshi said, lectures may entertain individuals for a few hours, but without improving them. Silence, on the other hand, is permanent, meaning, of course, that it is always here. It is the foundation for us, and it benefits the whole of humanity. Devotee says, but silence is not understood. Maharshi replies, it does not matter. By silence, eloquence is meant. Oral lectures are not so eloquent as silence. Silence is unceasing eloquence. The primal master, Dakshinamurti, is the ideal. He taught his Rishi disciples by silence. The devotee says, yes, there were disciples for him, it was all right, but now it is different. People must be sought after and helped. The Maharshi says, that is a sign of ignorance. The power which created you has created the world. If it can take care of you, it can similarly take care of the world also. So by these comments, the Maharshi continues to point out that our nature is silence. Silence is the Guru. And so while we talk, and instructions are sometimes given, as pointers to enable us to work our way through some particular samskara or tendency which is clouding our recognition of the self in some moment. Ultimately, all of our concerns are resolved in silence itself. It is through this recognition of being, consciousness, and bliss, Sat Chitananda, that the self is realized. To be all of this so choosing the silence is to choose the heart. To have the form of the external, whether guru, sage, mountain, or life itself. Is to encourage ourselves to go more and more deeply into the heart of being through the Master and the question, who am I? It's been beautiful. We've had more and more animals joining us in the satsang lately. Sri Ramana, of course, many of you know, was very fond of animals, keeping them around the ashram. Many dogs, many cows, peacocks, cobras, monkeys, all were welcome. And still are at Ramana Ashram. Some animals just have a natural inclination toward silence, toward truth, just like some humans. Someone has put a message. Okay, I'm sure that most of you have seen this, but maybe not. the last couple of days is this realization that all this trying and searching is that during the day I appear to be forgetting my divine nature. And yet there is understanding that while everything comes and goes, this is always here as the only truth. Yes, beautiful. Beautiful. It feels like as this vibration and peace that comes through the inquiry is more and more known and familiar, it helps to quickly reconnect and reconfirm that which I am is divine and try to live at least part of the day from that space. Yes, very nice. Thank you, Marie. So, yes, you can see in this note a couple of things. One is that it is that outward movement into the external which is said to veil the recognition of self. And the way you describe it is just exactly the way it happens for everyone. As we come back into body consciousness, awareness in the morning, we are compelled, propelled by the attention out into the external. So we might wake up and very immediately we begin to think about what is on our to-do list for that day, or concerns about some situation that we've been involved in or are involved in can begin to come. So just recognize this as the outward movement of attention itself. This is not me. This is not who I am. This is just the outward movement of attention as it is drawn to something which has manifested at one of the sense doors or in the mind. This is why Sri Ramana, who gave very, very few practices, by the way, did tell people occasionally, when you first come into the recognition, I am here, in other words, in the morning, you are still on your bed, you are coming out of deep sleep, and there's a recognition which floods the body. I am here. Most of the time we never catch this. It happens so quickly. The samskaras begin to rise in the heart of being and manifest as I am here. Most of the time this isn't seen. But one of the things that he recommended, and is very effective, is that we can train ourselves to stop at that moment as soon as there is the first inkling, I, which is coming into waking consciousness. I. Stop. Wait there. Don't do anything. In other words, don't suppress anything and don't grab at anything. Just wait. I. Feel the full force of this I. Then it becomes possible to see, if you're interested. You don't need to. You can just remain asleep as I. Go through your day from there. You will be fine. Try it. You can also notice the way in which attention is drawn out into the mind, into thinking, into the making of your lists, into the conversation around I should get up, I shouldn't lay here any longer, all of that. And you can see as you go through the day that you are drawn more and more and more by the natural attention, activity of the body-mind into whatever is going on around you. And so, of course, there is this recognition at some point, oh, I have forgotten I am the self. Now I think I am my shopping list or my to-do list or my relationships or my work for that day. None of these things are a problem, of course. The forgetting comes about because of the identification with what the body is engaged in, or the mind is engaged in. If I think I am the mind, I am the body, then I will forget I am the self. This is called the veiling quality of mind. So the more that we go into this, the more we engage in it as part of a belief structure that says, this way of thinking is who I am. This way of being in the world is who I am. This conversation I'm having reflects who I am. This difficult circumstance which is swirling around me is who I am. This is the veiling quality of the mind, which says, I am the mind, or I am the body. But, as you also point out, Marie, it feels like this vibration and peace that comes through the inquiry is more and more known and familiar. As it is more and more known and familiar, it helps to quickly reconnect and reconfirm that which I am. Absolutely. This is actually the path of return to the inquiry from wherever attention has gone. Understand, this is not who you are. You are neither the movement out through attention, through externalization, nor are you the calling back. You are that which is aware. All you are doing through the calling back is simply returning that outward flow to its source. And of course, those of you who have been involved with the inquiry for a long time have heard me say, have heard Bhagavan say, this is the practice of returning to the source. So, one of the fruits of practice is that as you engage more and more in this recognition, I am here, now, and you let go of the identity of around what is happening in awareness itself, around the identity that the body is who I am, that the mind is who I am, as you let go of those tendencies by returning more and more frequently to the source, or as close to the source as you feel that you can get at that moment, what you do is you undermine that belief structure. You chop it away, you burn it up, so that the belief structure, I am the mind, I am the body, begins to weaken, and the understanding, I am that which is aware, here, now, strengthens. This becomes the firm foundation on which you stand, and all that you are, all that you experience, flows out of that. Then there is no fear around where attention might go at some time during the day. There's no fear, oh, I am losing myself. Understand, the self is that which is here. It is what is permanent. The most we can say about it is that the impermanent nature of attention and mind can veil it, but it cannot destroy it. Without the understanding, I am that which is aware, we feel lost. But with it, we are able to keep returning to this source, to the heart of being, that eternal, unborn, undying recognition that there is only the self. And so, yes, Marie, I say just to you, continue. What you are experiencing is exactly the way that the inquiry proceeds, until it's not necessary to do the inquiry anymore. When is it not necessary to do the inquiry anymore? When this me, when this one who becomes lost, or whatever the perception is, no longer arises. Until then, we don't beat up the mind for the veiling quality which it has. we simply recognize that as the limitation of the mind. And we express our gratitude for the Guru, for the teaching, by returning over and over, as many times as it takes, to the source or the recognition. That which is aware is here now, under all circumstances. This ability to return to the recognition, I am that which is aware, is one of the fruits of practice. So, in that moment of recognition, I am that which is aware, and I am returning, pulling back from this distraction. As soon as I do that, then follow that immediately with gratitude, with the recognition, I am here now. Do this with the gratitude of the heart. You have returned to the source. It is a great blessing in this life to find a teaching such as this that can bring us back over and over and over, until we no longer feel compelled to move out, move away from the self. So Rishi asks, once I am aware, here and now, do I need to go further and find out what awareness is? So not only do you not need to go further to find out what awareness is, asking that question, if you look very carefully, you can actually see that you cannot find out what awareness is. The reason is, awareness is not an object. You cannot find it. Everything else in your experience is an object. You can see a thought, you can feel a sensation, you can have an experience. All of these things, they come and go. They can be seen. This is the way that we know I am not that, right? Because the awareness itself is watching that, or knows that that is present, knows whatever that thought is, knows whatever that sensation is. So there is something else which is before that, which is watching, which is aware. The most we can say about awareness is that awareness is. It is not something we can become. If it were an object, we could become it. This is the power of thinking. If we can see a thought in the mind, and we put our attention, desire, energy into that thought, we can cause that thought to become something manifest in the body or in the mind. We can do this, or in the world. We can do this. We can bring about the manifestation of objects in the body, mind, or world simply by thinking about them, focusing on them, and keeping attention there. We cannot do this with awareness. Awareness is that which is prior to this whole activity. Therefore, all we can say about awareness is we can only be it. We cannot become it. We cannot make it happen. We can only be it. So once we come to this moment of recognition, awareness is here now. It's incumbent upon us to drop everything from there and simply fall into awareness itself. This comes as the recognition that which is aware is here now, or I am aware, to put it simply. But in this pure awareness, of course, there is no manifest I either. This is why I like to say that which is aware is here now. Because if I say I am aware, this is absolutely the truth. But there is no I in this moment. When there is only awareness, there is a felt sense in the body of this I, which is here now. This is what we are feeling all the time at its most basic level. I am here, right? This is what we feel. In fact, in the inquiry, we use this feeling state, I am here, as an anchor point. We come back to it over and over. I am here. But eventually we move on from there when it's recognized that I cannot find I anywhere. It's just a feeling. It's not something solid. This I is not an object. This is not the I of the personality. This is the I of the self, which also is not an object. So this is synonymous with awareness itself. So I come to this place, I am aware, or that which is aware is here now, and the instruction is rest. Know yourself to be that which is aware. It is at this moment that you make yourself available to be drawn deeply into the source, without any interference from this veiling quality of the mind. So come to this moment, this recognition, that which is aware is here now. Drop everything. Let the heart have you. Of course, there will be no you at that point. But let the heart have you. Know yourself to be that which is aware. All practices, all gurus, all sages, all teachings, all religions, everything that attracts you in this way is the manifestation of your own heart of being. Honor those, but know them not to be different from who you are. You are the self, being, consciousness, and bliss. Nothing is outside of you. You are not separate. That which is aware is here, now, as this. Namaste. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.